Hey everyone, my name is Drew and welcome to Novelytic. Today we are going to be doing my March TBR. So I will be separating my TBR into 3 separate parts. I have a couple of different things going on this month, including grad school and teaching books, which is one category, book club books, and then any other books that I intend on reading in the month. I will be participating in a read-a-thon. It is Becca's Bookopolython for 48 hours, which is going to be completely live. I will link her announcement video down below, but I am so excited for that. I loved the one that was over the summer. First, just to get these out of the way, I'm going to be doing a separate video regarding this, but for graduate school, I will be reading Teaching to Exceed the English Language Arts Common Core State Standards, and then for my classroom, I will be rereading The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, as well as Lord of the Flies. Once again, I'll go into more depth about those in a different video. Now for book club and read-a-thon books. So the first book club I'll be talking about is Buzzword-a-thon, which takes place the first week of March, and I will be reading This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Matar and Max Gladstone. So this is, I've actually seen it a lot around BookTube lately. I'm not sure if it's a novella, but it's only 209 pages, which really isn't that lengthy. Here is the blurb on Goodreads. So, among the ashes of a dying world, an agent of the commandant finds a letter. It reads, "Burn before reading." Thus begins an unlikely correspondence between 2 rival agents hell-bent on securing the best possible future for their warring factions. So it sounds like a super cool dystopian sci-fi. I've been seeing a lot of people hype it up on BookTube. I really don't want to know more, but I am super excited to read this for Buzzword-a-thon. The next book club I will be participating is Downed Memory Jane. I will link that Twitter down below. We are reading all of Jane Austen's work throughout 2021, as well as more modern retellings and reimagining of these stories. So in January, we read Pride and Prejudice. In February, we read Pride by Ibu Zeboy. And for this month, we will be reading Sense and Sensibility. This one I actually read fairly recently, and I really enjoyed it, so I'm excited to reread it. And I plan on listening to it with an audiobook and annotating this time. I didn't really annotate the first time, but in case you weren't aware, here is the blurb. 3 or 4 families in a country village is a very thing to work on. Oh. This isn't a blurb. Sense and Sensibility follows 2 sisters, and it sort of goes around and follows their 2 very different love stories. I don't like romance, but Jane Austen seems to be the only author that I appreciate their romance, so go Jane. But yeah, so we're following Eleanor and Marianne, the 2 leading ladies, and sort of how they come of age and how they find love and what they want out of a relationship, which is super cool. I will also continue participating in Tagalong, which is the Throne of Glass read-a-thon. Last month we read Throne of Glass, so now we're going to be diving into Crown of Midnight. They have not lost my attention yet, and by they I mean Sarah J. Maas. I'm liking the series. It's definitely not my favorite, but I am still intrigued enough to go on to the next book. Since it is a sequel, I will not be going into the synopsis, but it continues to follow Selena, who is an assassin. She's a royal assassin, and sort of her quests. And the final book that I will be reading for a book club is Beloved by Toni Morrison, which is this month's selection for the Pastic Classics book club. So I will also link that down below. It's a beloved classic. The gist of this story is Seth. Proud and beautiful, she escapes from slavery, but is haunted by its heritage, from the fires of the flesh to the heartbreaking challenges to the spirit. Set in rural Ohio, several years after the Civil War, this profoundly affecting chronicle of slavery and its aftermath is Toni Morrison's greatest novel. I have been wanting to get to Toni Morrison's work. I think this is the perfect opportunity to carve out time to not only read Beloved, but also dive into more of her series. I also have up in my other area here, I have Paradise, Jazz, and The Bluest Eye. So I figured I might as well start with the most popular, and I get to talk about it with people on BookTube. What's not to love? Now that we're out of the book club realm, I'm going to dive into some of the books that I would like to also read. I will be reading Lore by Alexandra Bracken. So this is the beautiful fairy loot cover, which I am just in love with. I mean, in case you haven't seen it already. It's so pretty. But yeah, so this is anticipated read for me. So the synopsis states, in modern day New York, a murderous game is about to begin. The Agon, or Agon? I'm not really sure. Every 7 years, for 1 week only, Zeus punishes the gods by forcing them to walk the earth as mortals, savagely hunted by the descendants of ancient bloodlines, all eager to kill a god and seize their divine power and immortality. After her family was brutally murdered by a rival line, Lore Perseus fled, turning her back on the Agon's cruel promises of eternal glory. For years, Lore has honored her parents' memory by doing one thing: surviving. For years, she has pushed away dark thoughts of revenge, until now. As the next game dawns, Lore finds Athena gravely wounded at her doorstep. The goddess offers her an alliance against their mutual enemy, and a way to leave the Agon behind forever. But Lore's decision to rejoin the hunt will come at a deadly cost. It may not be enough to stop the rise of a new god, with the power to destroy all of humanity. I'm really curious because I know the original cover has sort of a statue or like a bust of Medusa, so I am curious to see how Medusa plays in here. I love the stories of Medusa. I feel very bad for her, and I'm very intrigued to see how she will play in this reimagining of Greek mythology. So the next book I will be reading is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. First off, this is gorgeous. And this is really stepping out of my comfort zone, so I don't like to read romance. I hate reading it. Usually I don't like it, but I don't want to completely knock it. I think a lot of what I've read has been very hetero and cis, and I think I just need to check out more diverse romances, particularly sapphic ones. So in this particular one, we follow Grace Porter. So with her newly completed PhD in astronomy in hand, Grace Porter goes on a girls' trip to Vegas to celebrate. She's a straight-A, hard-working high achiever. She is not the kind of person who goes to Vegas and gets drunkenly married to a woman whose name she doesn't know, until she does exactly that. This one beautiful, spontaneous moment upends Grace's carefully laid life plans. Staggering under the weight of her parents' expectations, a struggling job market, and feelings of burnout, Grace flees her home in Portland for a summer in New York with the wife she barely knows. I mean, at least for me, it sounds fairly relatable. I guess the more like hardworking and more like having their life like all laid out, going to college, doing well, having a job lined up, feeling burnout. But I don't know. I want to give it a try. I don't want to completely knock the romance genre. I feel like it's sort of like I just need to find my niche in there. So I cannot wait to read Honey Girl. And I believe this is a debut novel. I need to double check on that. But if it is, that makes it even more intriguing for me. So, one weekend in March, we have Becca's Bookopolython. And we've already gotten the first prompt, which is to either read a fantasy or a book with a dark cover. So I combined them, and I will be reading, finally, These Violent Delights. So I love me a Shakespeare reimagining. This is a retelling that is inspired by Romeo and Juliet. So I have heard nothing but positive things. Now I hate Romeo and Juliet. Like, I hate that play. Out of all of the Shakespeare plays I've read, I haven't read all of them, but I've read a lot. That is my least favorite. I mean, if you read it as a satire, I guess it's okay, but like as a romance, it sucks. But I am so excited to see what Chloe Gong has to write. I mean, I haven't read it yet, but I'm already hyped for her next book, These Violent Ends. Like, can't wait. So for this lovely fantasy, the year is 1926 and Shanghai hums to the tune of debauchery. A blood feud between two gangs runs the streets red, numbing the city to its chaos. At the heart of it all is 18-year-old Juliette Kai, a former flapper girl who has returned to begin her duties as the proud heir of the Scarlet Gang, a network of criminals far above the law. Their only rivals in power are the White Flowers, who have fought the Scarlets for generations. And behind every move is their heir, Roma Montagove, who was Juliette's first love until he betrayed her. Already we see a twist. But when gangsters on both sides start clawing their own throats out, the people start to whisper of a contagion, a madness, of a monster in the shadows. As the deaths stack up, Juliette and Roma must set their guns aside and work together no matter their personal grudges. For if they cannot contain its mayhem, then there will be no city left for either to rule. That was rude. I hope everyone's okay, whatever that is, but yeah, details. I'm excited. It doesn't sound like... It seems like it has elements of this that I will like. It seems to leave out the elements that I dislike in the original Shakespeare. So, high hopes. I really hope I like it. And again, I love me a good reimagining, especially when it's a Shakespeare. As Becca's Bookopolython continues on, she and her co-host will be drawing new prompts every 12 hours, I believe. So I can't really pick the rest of my TBR for that, but I am excited. I do like a nice little... I like the anticipation that is involved in this. So from there, I have one last book to pick. So this is my lovely classics jar. I have tons of classics, so I'm just gonna quickly turn you. I have so many. There's stacked so many classics, and I have more over there on that bookshelf. I have a bunch all around the house. And so I wrote down the majority of what I have and put them in a jar because I need to get through them. I find that I'm getting really pulled into all these new releases. Not that that's a bad thing, but I do have all of these classics that I do want to read. I really like my classics. I do. I like analyzing them. That's just, I know I'm a nerd, but let's see which one I will have this month. This month I'm only going to be picking one. Last month I chose two, but just considering how busy I am this month, I want to only pick one, so let's see. Alright, please be a small one. Ooh, okay. So it is The Rebel by Camus. Give me one moment and I'll grab that. So here we have it. It is The Rebel by Albert Camus. So I read The Stranger, oh my gosh, that must have been years ago, but I found this at a used bookstore. I know this will definitely, it's a philosophy book, so it will be very, I think it will be very dense, but I think I can definitely work my way through this. I found The Stranger very intriguing, but again, it might be a bit different because the fact that it is more philosophy. The Rebel is, so it's a classic essay on revolution. The urge to revolt is one of the essential dimensions of human nature, manifested in man's timeless Promethean struggle against the condition of his existence, as well as the popular uprisings against established orders throughout history. And yet, with an eye towards the French Revolution and its regicides and deicides, he shows how inevitably the course of revolution leads to tyranny, as old regimes throughout the world collapse. The Rebel resonates as an ardent, eloquent, and supremely rational voice of conscience for our tumultuous times. And this is also translated from French. So yeah, that'll be actually really interesting, and I'm curious to see, like, so I've been on like a dystopian kick, so I want to see how this relates to maybe some of what we see in what we read in our fiction books. Some of the fantasy worlds, like, does this, I'm curious if any of this resonates with those fictional worlds. Let's see, I can't wait. I am nervous though. I mean, the words are kind of tiny, but hey. Making my way through my stacks. This is my TBR for March 2021. I can't wait to see if you've read any of these books. Let me know. Especially if you've read this. Please let me know your thoughts. But I can't wait. I can't wait to join all of the book clubs as well. Alright. Until next time. Bye.